great. Super busy, but it's all good. I was just
Yes.
sort of talking about your book. I have just been enjoying this book and I've been so blessed. I literally, it was like once I started reading it, I couldn't put it down, but I had to tell myself to sort of pace myself so that I don't get all of the information in a short
And get
period of time.
overwhelmed. Yes.
Yes, yes. And so go ahead and tell us about who you are and your book journey. Um, Let our audience know what's going on with Miss Adia.
So I am Adia Dozier. I am a transplant from the DC area. I
Yes,
have one grown son. I am living in Durham, North Carolina. I have a wonderful 10-year younger sister. So we are learning to, in our adult life, to enjoy being sisters.
yes,
I have a wonderful career as a IT professional in the healthcare industry. I decided once I experienced a traumatic event in my life that IT was not what I wanted to do,
hmm,
and that I needed to start researching how I can go about getting healed.
yes,
I looked for books that would help me to heal, that would help me to transition my way from the bad chapter of my life to a
yes,
better chapter of my life. And I couldn't find any. And I decided to start writing my own book.
yes,
And it started with my own journaling. So
yes,
I started doing research. That book that you're holding started by me researching the biblical and the scientific portions of healing
yes,
and how it would impact my life, my health, my psyche, my emotions. And I decided I didn't want to remain broken. You know,
yes,
I think we all know, um, especially Black women. You know, we
yes,
all know plenty of white and Black women that are um, their life is hindered because of something that has transpired um, long ago, and and
yes,
and I didn't want to be that, and
yes,
so I started writing my. You know, when you first start penning your heart to paper,
hmm,
you don't know what to expect, or you don't know um, the ins and outs, you know. So
yes,
that's the importance of a role like yours, you know,
yes,
a woman who is a coach and has the ability of uh, being a wealth of knowledge to people who are just getting started, you
yes,
know. And so when I started writing, I decided that I was going to seek out a professional. I was going to seek out someone that had a reputable business,
yes,
and I found a Christian um, publisher.
hmm,
And I actually was interviewed by Christian Faith Publishing, and I decided that with Christian Faith Publishing, they were in Pennsylvania, they were so far away, that I would find a publisher that was closer and that I could drive to and connect with. And so that's what I did. And I went and met with her, and she seemed to be a wealth of knowledge. And we seemed to be connecting and having the same vision. And she was able to tap into what I was trying to do to get my book out.
yeah,
And and we started, and I started paying her a lot of money. And after $3,200 later, I realized that she was not a reputable business,
Right.
and that uh, she wasn't a woman of her word.
Mm-hmm.
And so, after kind of the sticker shock of realizing that she wasn't, producing royalties, she wasn't returning things to me. Um, that's when I realized that I was going to have a problem on my hands. I did go the legal route,
Mm-hmm.
and even when going the legal route, I was informed that there wasn't a lot that I could do.
Yes.
And I started hearing more and more horror stories. When you buy a black car, or you buy
Mm-hmm.
a blue car, and it's new to you, and you never noticed them on the road before, but all of a
Right.
sudden you see them all over the place. So
Right.
I started meeting authors who had also been scammed, or experienced some type of um, you know whether it was a loss of money, whether it was a breach of contract,
Mm-hmm.
whether their book never was published. I actually met an author whose um, manuscript was stolen by the editor. Um, and so it was a sad, disappointing phase. But once I um, tried to shake myself and get myself together. Once I did that, then I was able to realize that you can salvage your story. You can, you know, this overcoming message that I'm delivering in this book. Okay, people need it, and if you really want to find the people that need you, then I'm going to need for you to shake yourself and get your act together. And that's when I found you.
Yes. Yes. Wow. And so I just want to say thank you for sharing your story with
Yes, ma'am.
respect to that, because that is a problem, a growing problem that authors, when you first start out and you're super excited about writing your story, it's a vulnerable state, and it's so vulnerable that the scammers out there, they know that, and they see the vulnerability in you, because they know that as an author you may not be experienced in all of the details as it relates to uploading your book, as it relates to promoting your book. And so they approach you with all of these ideologies, in your case, being a woman of God. And so people utilize that for their own benefit, and not representing God at all. But they're using that to gain your trust,
And
and it's
the
unfortunate.
sad part was when the lawyer said you should never do business with a Christian company because they will be the first to find a niche of people who they can take advantage of. And
Right.
so um, I did make a decision. I won't mix um,
Church
business
business.
and my faith.
Right.
Um, but it was sad to hear a lawyer make that type of statement.
Right.
But it's the reality of where we live,
Yes.
and so I'm just grateful for connecting with, you know, um, it. I didn't let it stop me. You know,
Right. Yes.
quickly it was time to find my next resources,
Yes.
and to go on to the next phase.
And we actually met shortly after that happened. I think I hosted a webinar and you attended and
Yes.
you shared your story. And I was heartbroken behind that. And I just felt compelled to help you at, when you needed that help. And it was so devastating, even to the ladies within that webinar. Um, we were all feeling the pain, that you experienced. And
I
so,
I think if it was like maybe like a Christian hookup where
hmm
maybe I spent $500 and I needed to get my book published and I slid her some money and
hmm
but I
3,200 is a lot.
I gave her, $3,600
Hmm
and I and I will say she did produce a my published book. It is published,
Yes,
I will say that. And it was on Amazon. But all of the royalties were going to her.
yes,
And
yes,
so people really just need to be careful of um, how their accounts are set up on KDP,
yes,
how whatever your platform is going to be. It is important that um, they are careful about how they set up their account,
yes,
taxes.
yes.
You know, these are things that it's more detailed than just you writing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is one of the core um, components of me offering coaching services to the group, to new authors, seasoned authors, because it is more than writing your book. Even if you have a publisher, you've hired someone to help you, you need to know what's going on. You cannot turn over your project to anyone without having an idea as to what's going on every step of the way.
And
And that's what I was doing with you. I want you to know how to upload your own book. Now, should you not have time, or something's going on, then yeah, you can have somebody do it. But then you can go back and check and make sure, or you can set up your account so that you are aware everything everything that they're doing,
but
because
that's
they
what they're
will take
banking
your,
on.
yeah,
That's what they're banking on.
they'll take your money and run.
Yes.
And in your case, she uploaded your book, and you didn't have access to your book, only to see it on Amazon. So you were selling author copies, but not getting the royalties.
Correct. So she uploaded it to her own KDP account.
Mm-hmm.
And she uh, told me each month that Amazon paid quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out through research that Amazon pays monthly.
Yes.
And she said, okay, well, we have so many authors at this publishing company that I can't cut a check and forward them every month. So we send out the checks quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. So my book went live in the beginning of March of 2023. And I waited. So I'm like, well, it's a quarter. So I gave it 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found where it said, Amazon won't cut a check unless it's $100.
That's not true.
So I said, maybe I haven't sold
Mm-hmm.
$100 worth. I mean,
Right. You didn't know.
I didn't know.
Right.
And so I waited. I kept reaching out to her, and then she began to have tragedy after tragedy after
Mm.
tragedy, and then there was no communication.
Wow.
And so she came to my book release party and participated, and I haven't seen her since May of 2023.
Wow. Wow.
So I continue to get tagged by my wonderful supporters, people who do know me, and then people who do not, who um, found me on Facebook or found me on Instagram, and they are, they've subscribed to my website, and they are getting my blogs, and they've contacted me for prayer, and they have a book in their hand,
Yes.
and I have no idea how
How
they
they
got it.
got it. Right. Right.
And that money is going in her pocket.
And
And
so, as a resolve, you were able to lock that account.
yes, I contacted Amazon, and I took the advice of the lawyer who instructed me to use um, because this would be a small claims matter, there's no way to enforce, her to uh, relinquish funds. She has an LLC. She has set herself up to practice this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because my hands were sort of tied, he instructed me to use my free avenues, use the Better Business Bureau,
Yeah.
use social media, um, get her information out there so that another unsuspecting author will not succumb to the same, situation and get taken advantage of and get stolen from. And so I did that. I also followed his instruction and reached out to Amazon, to their intellectual properties department,
Mm-hmm.
and was informed that uh, I couldn't, get any sales statistics or anything like that from the account, but that they would mark the book as out of print.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what they did. Um, I was able to, with your help, create my own KDP account, and we are in the process of getting the book re-uploaded, republished uh, as a revised edition.
Yes. Yes. And so, just to comment on that again, that is the reason why I don't allow selling in the group. And there has to be a vetting process. There's so many people that are offering services to new authors. And again, the new authors and some seasoned authors are very vulnerable because they're excited about their publications, they're excited about getting their books out there for people to read, getting that part completed. When you see your book in your hand, it's more than giving birth. I mean, the excitement, because it's in your head and you've been thinking about it, and now you actually have it in your hand. And again, there's people that bank on that vulnerability. So, in order to protect all of us from scammers, um, this way the authentication has to be completed. So,
And there's so many collaboration offers. There's so many
yes,
people getting taken advantage of with collaboration offers.
yes,
People paying. I know a lady who offered a Christian collaboration, and 13 authors all paid $300, $400, $500 to participate, and that was supposed to be to cover publishing fees, and she walked away with all of it.
it's terrible. It's terrible that people get taken advantage like that, because here you are pouring your heart out and you're excited even about collaborating. I've been approached by people that want to, put a book together. They have a number of authors that are participating, and in general, there's nothing wrong with that. There are some great collaboration books out there, and so it's really about doing your research. It's really about vetting that person that you are going to trust your product, because your book is your product. This is your business. And so you're actually giving your product to someone else to promote for you. And in some cases, again, I understand people are busy. If you're still working, then you have to work. If you have children, you have to mind your children. And then you're able to have your space of time to write your book. And so someone can approach you and say, hey, I can do all of these things for you for this fee. But you say okay, but you have no idea who they are, what their background is, how many other people that they've helped. You have to do your research. You have to ask them questions like, what is your website? How long have you been in business? How many books have you published? And who are
Now,
the authors?
I will say that she she has a building, like she rents an office space out of a building. I did go, and my husband and I went and visited with her in her office space. It is a nice office, um, in Greensboro, North Carolina. I, um, prayed with her. I think I was definitely more concerned about, was the right person conveying this message that was so dear to me?
Yes.
Was the right person delivering my message? So I went to vet that portion. I did, like I said, I noted that there was this beautiful building, this office space that she was renting.
Mm-hmm.
I did research on the Better Business Bureau. There were positive, reviews there. There were no negative reviews, um, and there were no negative Google reviews. So that was the extent of my research.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she was recommended by a mutual friend who also just didn't know her. Um, and so and she's a pastor of a church.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
so I thought that all of those things
They
meant
added up. Yeah.
that she would be a woman of her word, and that is not what took place.
Wow.
And the sad part about it, Paulette, is she hasn't stopped anything. Like
Wow.
I don't know what she was intending, but God has opened up more doors just in the last few weeks. Um, Speaking engagements, I'm about to launch my podcast.
Yes.
Uh, so whatever it is that the enemy intended
Yes.
by this little confusion, it wasn't successful. So, um, you know, called to be a wife, the revised edition, the revised spring edition will be back on Amazon. Because of your help, we're gonna get it in Barnes and Noble, Target,
Yes.
uh, you
Yes.
know, all of the
Everywhere.
all of the avenues, anywhere that you want to go buy a book, we're gonna make sure that you can go get it there.
Yes, absolutely. So let's not give her any more glory, but I
Yeah.
do want people to be mindful of what you're getting into.
Yes.
And even as you can see, even in Dia's case, she did do her vetting and she did research, and still someone took advantage. And so we just have to be mindful. We have to communicate with each other. We have to let people know what's going on. Hey, I'm writing this book. There is a wealth of knowledge within the group, and so we could all learn from each other. My experience, it goes into marketing, it goes into publishing, it goes into cinematography, a load of other items that I do. But as it relates to uh, being an author and being successful with your book writing, it is more than just writing. And
Yes.
so that's what I want all of us as authors to step to that next level. That not only are we writing our books, but we have the control as to how our books are published, how they're marketed, and we are in control with knowledge, knowing exactly what's happening at each step. Now, does it take time to learn all this information?
It does.
Absolutely, it
Mhm.
does. I've spent possibly years studying Amazon and going deeper and deeper and staying on top of what's going on with Amazon, um, and just the whole publishing ring. So I want to talk more about your book and how it is such a healing, and also this what you've experienced. I think I told you this before, is an attack of the devil, because your book is so powerful. It is it speaks to your soul, your spirit as a woman,
Amen.
and so the message is so impactful. I believe that that's why this happened, because there was a pushback. The devil doesn't want us to know who we really are biblically, and
Yes.
what we are designed to do, like who we are as women, how God designed us.
Yes.
I think in everyday life and trials and traumas and all of that, we forget that, and we sort of put that aside. And I can say, even from my own personal experience, I dive into work, I dive into reading. That is my safe place. When I'm working, nobody can hurt me there, and I can really get into a lot of different things. And over time, I realized, reading this book, that there was a part of me that I sort of put away,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
I closed off to people, because that is a vulnerable part, and I didn't want that to be shown, that maybe I am vulnerable in some aspects as it relates to being a wife. I think I felt that I was already a wife and I lost my husband, and that was the end. And so, and your book, it helped me to realize that that wasn't the end, that that was a chapter, and I feel that God was working on me to prepare me for the next chapter. And so I can't encourage you enough to get this book, because it's going to speak to your spirit, your womanly spirit. And so, Adia, tell me it. I want to say that that is was part of your purpose, but tell me, like, as you are writing, because you are so transparent in this book and open. It's it's so relatable. Like I said, you can just keep reading and you find yourself in a place of tranquility, like you're exhaling, like, wow, somebody is actually knows and they're speaking to me. You just feel that blessing that's happening. So, um, tell me a little bit more about that part of it in your writing, as you were writing your story and you were doing your research in that, and putting it all together, because it's excellent. It's
Thank you.
excellent.
Thank you. So I got married at 23. I was 23 years old. I was raised by my grandparents in a Christian household. I, saw my mama who took care of daddy, who, was the excellent wife, and he was the excellent husband, and he was a provider and a leader. And my mom was submissive, and she was, resourceful and attentive. And I just watched her, and it was like magic,
Mhm.
and I got married at a young age, got married at 23, and I decided that even when I was dating before I got married, I was a teen mother, and I had decided that I was going to be the same type of woman that Mama was,
Mhm.
and some man was going to swoop in, and he was going to recognize all these beautiful things about me, and I was going to get married. Well, that's not
Mhm.
what happened. And the more that I offered myself, the more that people took, but no one ever um, came with the ability to be a good steward of this gift that I was offering.
Mm.
And so I became a teen mom, and then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to be stuck on stupid.
Mhm.
I'm going to um, close my legs, and I'm going to do it God's way,
Mhm.
and I'm going to become abstinent, and um, I'm going to learn everything I can about when I do present myself again, how to go about it the right way. And
Yeah.
so that's what I did. And so I was married for 13 years, and prided myself in being a woman of excellence, a wife of excellence during that marriage. And in 2015, um, my first husband was shot and killed.
Mhm. Mm.
And so I often describe it as um, if you were to take a porcelain plate and you were to shatter it down on the concrete,
Mhm.
even with super glue, there would be no way for you to put it back together.
Mhm.
So um, I decided, and I was in church. I was walking in my calling. I was um, uh, a holy woman, even though I was riding a motorcycle. So I was a preaching, uh, ministering, riding a Harley,
Yes.
beside my first husband. I was doing all of those things, and enjoying life to the fullest.
Yes.
And when this breaking happened, I realized that the only way I was going to survive is through Christ. That the only way that I was going to get the rest of my life back, like I'm
Yes.
sorry, I was a pistol toting, Harley riding preacher. So you weren't going to come in and take this thing from me and destroy my life, and you get all of the rest of my life too.
Yeah.
You get any love that I would ever experience too. You
Mm.
get for me to be depressed forever too. Like you don't get all of that.
Yeah.
You may get this chapter in
Right.
this season,
Right.
but you don't get it all. And so
Yes.
I started researching books, and I found where even non-believers, who have experienced such tragedy, and they pressed their way, and they went to counseling, and they were on medicine, and they, piece by piece, they
Got it together.
they put their life back together.
Yes.
And I decided that I was going to do the same thing. And so I Um, I had some wonderful friends and wonderful family. Um, I call them my pallbearers
Yes.
because they carried me when I was dead.
Yeah.
You know, they carried me back to life. You know, as women, I can't speak from a man's point of view, but if you don't have women in your life that can remind you the very words to your own song,
Yeah.
who don't know you intimately enough that when you are acting out of character and you can't seem to tell which way is up,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have women in your life who can carry you,
Yes.
then you need to go back to the drawing board and readdress your circle,
Yes.
because
Absolutely.
we need each other. Women
Yes.
need women. This isn't a black woman thing. This is a
Woman
woman,
thing.
every woman thing.
Yes.
Um, and if you can't find, strong women who, if you have to be the brightest thing in the room, if you have to be the loudest thing in the room, if you
Yes.
can't, you know, even this woman who did this thing with the publishing, if you can't help another woman to succeed, if you can't,
Yes.
you know, there's a saying about, uh, just because my light is bright and your light is bright, I don't have to dampen your light
Right.
for mine to shine.
Right.
Like, we can both shine together.
Yeah.
And so I had some wonderful ladies who were in my life, and a couple fellas too, and they were brothers from another mother, and they helped me and carried me until I could stand.
Yes.
And I did the work, Paulette. I'm not going to lie. I have no shame about any of it. I was on Xanax for 3 months. I I had a structured prayer room with with uh a prayer bench and space to lay in the floor and get before God. But if you're so distraught, if you're in such despair
Yes.
that you can't even trust the words that are coming out of your mouth, that
Yes.
you don't have a connection to your soul or the words that you're supposed to be saying to God,
Mm.
if you're at that place, then I would encourage you to go get some medicine.
Yes.
I would encourage you to go get stable so that you can, be able to stand on your own 2 feet again and be able to
Yes.
get down on your knees and actually pray. So
Yes.
I had some wonderful friends who helped, and I fought my way, Paulette.
Yes.
I went to a Christian. I found a Christian psychiatrist, and I was on clinical care for 3 months. I saw a counselor for 6 months until I could get my bearings. Um, and I did research on
Yes.
forgiveness. I Not only did I have to heal from grief of the
Yes.
loss of a husband, but I had to heal from hate.
Yes.
I I wasn't I had never hated anybody a day before in my life. And I was not going to be a person who was going to carry hate around in my heart.
Yes.
You can't change the very essence of who I am and now make me a hateful, bitter person.
Right.
You
Because that's not you.
That's not me. And
Right.
I'm not going to give you that much power that you can now make that me.
Yes.
So, you know, I decided that what I had claimed to believe in God, it was time to decide where the rubber meets the road.
Yes.
You're going to have to prove sometimes what you claim you believe.
Absolutely.
And
Y-
that's what I did. I
Yes.
I decided that, I was going to go after healing. I was going to chase after healing. I was going to fight for healing. And
Yes.
I split my life into, I think I have this in the book. I split my life into adders, subtractors, multipliers, and dividers. I said you have to go in one or the other category.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people who are taking away from, I didn't have enough to have anybody take anything at that point.
Right.
I didn't have enough to cover myself. I was in a naked place where I had to be able to trust you if you were going to be in my space.
Yes.
And so I removed everyone from my life that was uh, subtracting or dividing, and I kept all my adders and all my multipliers.
Yes.
And
I
I
love that.
decided that um, I started studying, Ruth and Naomi.
Yes.
And everybody always wants a Boaz, but I
Mm-hmm.
decided that people really don't pay attention to the fact that um, that Naomi, even in her instruction to Ruth, that Naomi had lost her husband and had lost her son, and
Mm-hmm.
her son was Ruth's husband. So that was her, was her daughter-in-law. And so both of these women had already experienced pain. And the reason that Ruth was able to go and find her Boaz is because she was teachable, is because um, she saw wisdom in Naomi,
Mm-hmm.
and she decided, I'm going to follow her instructions. I'm not going to be bitter. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be a mad Black woman.
Right.
I'm not going to be unapproachable and got a sour face and a harsh mouth. I'm going to go soften myself, and I'm going to tap into my femininity and my submission and the innate power that God has put into all women, whether we
Yes.
want to accept it or not. And she said, I'm gonna go get my man.
Yeah.
And and so I decided, and you can, I have friends who were like, you know, Adia, I just need you to calm down. You can't start planning a wedding just yet. I was like, we got to go find a wedding dress. I don't know how I'm gonna do my hair when I walk down the aisle. They was like, Adia, you can't. Like, he's only been gone, 7 months, 8 months, and I said, God told me this isn't it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not gonna grieve forever.
Right.
I'm gonna give y'all one good year now.
Right.
And I was there, Paulette,
Yes.
and it wasn't that he was shot and I was shot. Like, that's what could have happened,
Right.
but that's not what happened.
Right.
So if God chose that I stayed here, when I put him in the ground, a casket only holds one person.
Yes.
I don't care how many people die at the same time, a casket only holds one person.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in the ground.
Right.
So it was so clear to me that I needed to learn now how to live.
Yes.
I needed to now learn I have this superpower of love. I
Mm-hmm.
needed to learn how to get connected again to my superpower.
Yes.
This tragedy did not have the ability, it was not strong enough to take my
To
superpower.
take
That's
you
mine.
up. Right. Absolutely.
So this book, Called to Be a Wife, it is I I tried to start with 12 months. Okay. I tried to start with 12 months. So I tried to start with 12 topics.
Mm-hmm.
And my pastor at the time told me that I had 52 in me and I needed to go back to the drawing board and come up with 52. And I was so devastated. I was in church, Paulette. I was crying hysterically, and everyone thought I was in the spirit. And I was crying because It took me all that time to come up with 12 chapters. And now Pastor done said that I got to come up with 40 more. And I went home and I locked myself in my prayer room and they just kept coming. Each topic, I had my 12 and God just kept sending them. And I
Yes.
just kept frantically writing. I was crying and I was frantically writing. And so throughout, it took about 5 years to write um, the book that you're holding.
Mm-hmm.
I I tried to keep it small, Paulette, and God told me that for the women that want to learn, for the women that want to be free, for the women that want to soften their rough edges, for the women that want to not give up on healthy relationship,
Yes.
that we have a textbook for every other part of life. We have continuing education credits. You know, when a nurse goes to college and she is in school, she's in nursing school,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't complain about the size of her clinical textbooks.
Right.
You know,
Right.
she doesn't complain about the amount of information that she's being forced to take in and to absorb.
Right.
She perfects her craft. She
Yeah.
decides that she's going to discipline herself and she's going to work that text and she's going to learn
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And she becomes a subject matter expert in this area, and she graduates, and while she's a nurse she still got to go to school.
Yes.
She has to go take continuing education classes. And
Yes.
so that's what it's like to get married. That's what it's
Yes.
like to be married and get divorced and
Yeah.
have a person walk out of your life and decide that they no longer want this commitment that you guys had.
Yes.
That's what it's like when someone commits adultery on you. That's what
Yes.
it's like when you are devastated. That's what it's like when you are a widow.
Yes.
That's what it's like when you're single and some man has drugged you down through there
Yes.
and taken you for every good thing that's in you, and you
Yes.
just keep extending and extending and extending, and you put all your gifts, all your fruits, all your seeds in this basket, and you think if you put enough in the basket that in wisdom he's going to recognize your value and your worth, and he's going to be a good steward of you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have the wisdom to realize that he doesn't have the ability to be a good steward of you, it's not in his nature.
Right.
You you can't take a charlatan and a con man and, you know, someone who is, I mean, I'm going to be honest, someone who's a hoe. You
Yep.
you can't you can't take a man who's a hoe and then and make him be a high value man, right? That's what
Right.
everybody's talking about, a high value man. You can't do that.
No, you can't.
You can't take a man who's not a leader.
Right.
He isn't a leader in his own life.
Right.
He can't add 1 plus 1 in his own life. He can't take care of his bills. He can't keep a car. He can't keep a job. He can't be responsible for his children or himself.
Right.
And then you come along and you say, I'm this wonderful woman and I want to add to you and I
Mm-hmm.
want you to lead me. He he can't do that for himself.
Right.
So I decided that this knowledge that I needed to shake myself and get myself ready for the next phase of my life, to get my heart ready to love again.
Yes.
Um, once God put all of that stuff in me and I started doing all this research, I said, this is information that all of my sisters need.
Yes.
Whether we're
Yes.
single, whether we're widowed, whether we're married,
Yes.
marriage is a daily opportunity to prune yourself.
Yes.
Marriage is not a photo opportunity for Facebook.
No.
Marriage is something that takes discipline,
Yes.
and it takes work and maturity, and it takes
Yes.
a teachable spirit.
Yes.
And we get married nowadays, and as soon as somebody steps outside of our box, we want to get divorced.
Right.
And marriage, I'm not a proponent of let a man beat on you. I'm not a proponent of let a man have 10 kids around town and come back home. Like, I'm
Right.
not one of those women who believes that
Right.
regardless of what you did during the day, as long as you come home to me, I'm not that woman.
Right.
So everything that I'm teaching women in this book, I'm saying I also want you to have the wisdom in who you choose, and
Yes.
and to know if I'm presenting my best gifts to you, that you need to be an honorable man of God as well.
Yes. Yes. And so you talk about pruning, and that is relevant because what happens is over time God reveals more about you to yourself. And so you have to identify those shortcomings of your own self and what you're bringing to the table as well. But I feel that this book, it does turn that page to you, and it does help you to reveal who you are and what you want, really being honest about what you're looking for. Because I think it's safe to say, everyone wants the perfect marriage. But what is that? There is no perfect marriage. It's work. It's constantly challenging who you are as a woman versus who your husband is, and what how the exchange is going, and if each person is feeling that appreciation, that love, that exchange. But as you said, we are the superpower of love. That's what God created us for. And I like how you worded that and explained that, because
Now,
again, hmm?
Paulette, do you think that as women that we have lost the ability of self-reflection because we portray ourselves as perfect, and that
Yes,
men are the ones that always need to rise to up to
absolutely.
us, and they need to
Yes,
fix their lives, and they need to
yes.
present more and do more. When do you think we changed where we no longer check another sister and say, I'm sorry, sis, but your slip is showing?
Yes.
Or that we can receive a reality check that we're out of order?
Right, right. And that's the whole point, is that we are not invisible in this. It's not that, okay, I'm perfect and you got to work on, all of these different things that I'm not happy with.
Yes.
And it's really, that's one of the, I guess, ideologies that I was raised on, to always look at myself first, and work on me first. What am I doing? How can I be better, in this exchange?
Yes.
And then when I do that, somehow things change. Like you said, we're not looking, I think, with where we are today, there's social media, there's all of these false identities that we think attributes to a perfected relationship or
Yes.
perfected marriage. How many times somebody posts pictures on Facebook with their mate.
Yes.
It's a false identity only because you're only posting when you're in your happy
Perfect.
place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as you know, every day is not, as my sister says, every day is not cupcakes and rainbows. There are challenges, there are discussions, there are some of the silliest things that come up that can really piss you off.
Yes. Yes.
And you have to look at, like, where does that come from, you know?
And is this silly thing what's going to end your relationship?
Right.
Is this
Right.
silly thing um what's going to, so I have a girlfriend who thanks me. I wasn't able to help them at the time, but they got divorced for irreconcilable differences.
Hmm.
And I researched that, and that is the most common reason that people think it's because of adultery, or they think it's because of finances.
Hmm.
It's because of irreconcilable differences.
Irreconcilable differences.
And really, to me, all that is somebody couldn't swallow their pride.
Right.
Somebody
Absolutely.
couldn't humble themselves. Somebody couldn't apologize.
Right.
Somebody couldn't change. Somebody couldn't compromise.
Right. That
Somebody
pride.
wouldn't listen.
Right. Right.
You know, and
Absolutely.
and psychology, psychologists study human interactions and human relationships. They go to school for 4 and 6 years just so they can understand the human emotions of a thing, so they
Yes.
can understand the human psyche. We don't get
Yes.
any of that. who
No.
who who teaches us how to interact relationally?
Right. Well,
who who
who does, and not to cut you off, is we watch our parents. We watch the people that raise us. And
and were they
whether,
always right?
right, whether it's good or bad, that videotape is rolling. And so that is the first, um, I guess, screenshot
Yes.
that you see as to how you are supposed to act in a relationship, is what you see your parents do.
And if your mama used to jump in your daddy's face and cuss him out,
Then that's why you're doing that.
if they fought like cats and dogs and they fought like two men,
That's why you're doing that in your relationship.
if daddy snuck out and he
Yes,
had a chick across town and you got another stepsister and brother,
right. And it's almost like you gravitate to those people that do that, because that's what's comfortable to you. Not that you want it to be comfortable, but that's what you've seen. And so,
and if you never saw mom and daddy kiss,
right,
if there was no sex in their house, and
right,
now you think it's okay because they lived in two separate bedrooms,
right,
that you and your husband can sleep in two separate bedrooms, and when you get mad you can cross your arms
right,
and you shut it down and you don't give
right,
him no affection and you hold sex like it's a manipulating tool.
right. Sex and kids,
And kids.
and all of that is, it's a repetitive, um,
Cycle.
emotion or cycle that is passed down. I mean, we look back in history, and we look back, with, our grandmothers, great greats and greats and greats, and those women, they put up with things, I think partially because of financial, and they had no choice, and
Correct.
so, and they didn't talk about what
How
they were
daddy had
going
another
through.
family across town.
Yes, all
Mm-hmm.
of that was kept, under the rug. You never spoke about that. And so, but over time, as women, became more independent, they were educated,
Made more money.
and they made more money, then they gained more knowledge and power, and then they made decisions as to what they're not going to put up with, you
Yes,
know
but I didn't want to have money but be lonely.
right.
I
so
didn't I
so
didn't want to.
right,
Yeah.
and that's what's happening, is that I think women are making a choice.
And
So
I'm all for the choice.
right.
I'm all for the independence, but my mama used to say, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. You don't
Yes.
have to be so independent that you want to jump in some man's face and tell him that you don't need him every 5 seconds, because
Right.
eventually he gonna walk out the door.
Yes. Right.
There is a
Always
way
first.
for you to make $500,000 and be a CEO and have all these multiple houses and all of this and still know how to submit to that man.
Yes.
There
Yes.
there is a way for you to still position yourself to be his help,
Yes. Yes.
and not cut him down every
Not cutting
time.
down.
Yeah,
Yes.
that he's making a because he's going to make mistakes,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know and then what do you do?
Right. Right.
You insult him and make him feel like he's half a man.
Right. Right.
So I think that there's an art to being a woman of in a relationship. There is a
yes.
art to that we have to get back to learning. There's an art
Yes.
to there's an art to communication.
Yes.
Why
There
is it
is an
that
art
we
to
can
yes.
communicate on these platforms? You can communicate at work.
Yes.
You can have
Right.
respect for a boss that has no technical intellect
Right. And no respect for you.
and no respect for you, and they talk to you crazy, and
Right.
you deliberately, because of their position, can respect their role,
Right.
but you got to talk to your husband
Right.
like you've lost your mind. Like,
Right.
at some point we have to. Now, if that's what you want, that's one thing, but you can't say you want a healthy relationship and you have these other habits.
Yes. Yes.
At some
You
point it was time. So I recognized my own bitterness at
yes.
my trauma, at my situation, and I decided I was going to be pruned. I decided I
Yes.
was going to get in front of women and pastors and ministers who were smarter and richer and more holy than me.
Yes. Yes.
And I was going to have people who were wiser than me and could help me to fix the areas that I needed to soften. And I
Yes.
did that work. And because I did that work, I was at work one day in the break room at my job, and I made a joke that caught the attention. I called someone a Bama, and I made a joke, and it caught the attention of a coworker in the break room who is from Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm.
And so that is how I met my husband of today. That is how I met my Boaz.
Mm-hmm.
And I can truly say that all of the prayers I prayed during the first marriage, God honored in the second marriage.
Yes.
I can truly say that God has confirmed for me that all of the prayers he heard.
Yes.
He just wasn't going to force them on the first husband.
Yes. And
So,
it's really, and timing. I want to, before you go on, the timing, I want to ask you too is how you're speaking now about what has happened to you.
mhm.
It's empowering. And so tell me how do you feel right now when you're talking about Miss Adia a year ago?
Honey,
What would you have to say to her right now?
this isn't going to kill you.
Yes.
You're going to live through this.
Yes.
You're going to love again.
Yes.
You're going to feel powerful again. Don't let anybody destroy who God created you to be.
Yes.
Get in a quiet place, learn and study sound wisdoms,
Yes.
so that you can come out with strong muscles and a
Yes.
strong heart,
Yes. Yes.
and you can feel beautiful again,
Yes.
and the right person is going to love every inch of you
Yes.
like nothing ever happened.
Yes. That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. It's a compelling story. And uh as Black women, and I won't just say Black women, women period, we we go through a lot,
Yeah,
and but we're so resilient, and it shows the magnitude of our strength, even in those times when we feel we're at our lowest, and we're like, okay, God, what now, what next? I don't have anything left.
I
And
think
then go ahead.
I think Jesus died for that stuff too.
Yes, he did.
Like he died
Yes.
for the ugly stuff.
Yes. Yes, he did.
And we can't be ashamed that this ugly thing happened to us. It
Yes.
happened,
Yes.
but it doesn't have to kill you,
Yes.
and it doesn't have to make you less than who you were before.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Well, this has been an amazing discussion. I love your candidness, your transparency.
Yes, ma'am.
Your book is absolutely amazing, you guys. Adia's website is scrolling below. It's Adia at, no, it's perfectinghercraft.com. That
Yes.
is her
Perfect.
website address. You can subscribe to her page, pick up her book. This book, you will have it forever, and you can always go back to it. That's what's so beautiful. It's not one of those books where you read the story and you put it away in your bookshelf. This is more like your woman's Bible,
Amen.
that is
Amen.
speaking to you in real time in today's issues, because I think that, like I said, as women, we we take on a lot. We're exposed to a lot. There's a lot going on in our environments outside of our control
Yes.
that affect us: family,
Career.
extended family, careers, your children, your grown children.
Yes.
And somewhere in that scheme, you have to take care of you. You have to nurture and remind yourself of who you are, because
And if
all of these things kind of chip away at you.
you don't do that, you'll look up and that little bit of coffee that's left in the bottom of the coffee cup,
It's gone.
and it turns bitter.
Yes.
It turns pungent, and
Yes.
you can't serve from an empty cup.
You can't. You absolutely cannot. And so I thank you so much
Yes,
for
ma'am.
putting all of this into your book.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, this is something that everyone needs. Like I said, to go back to read, to remind yourself of who you are.
And
To,
as seasons change.
yes, as seasons change, to tap in to that loving person, because that bitter spirit is ugly.
Yeah.
Um, it is debilitating.
Yes.
You cannot move forward from that. You will stay locked in to this zone where you're just existing.
Yes. Yes.
And that's not living. That is not living at how God intended us.
Correct.
We're not living at our best. And so this book is a reminder of who we are, what what we're capable of,
Yes.
and how we can share that love and also feel the love within our hearts,
Yes.
because that love that's inside, no matter what has happened in your life, it's still there,
It's still
but we
there.
put walls around it and we cover it up, and like you said, you
Out of
become
protection.
bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
protection. And
Now
so,
on the website, I do want to say, Paulette, that I do have a place for prayer.
oh,
So
awesome. Yes,
so
I saw that.
they can purchase the book. I have autographed copies that can be sold, and they ship out from the website. I do
Yes,
blogs that talk about, daily, relational, whether single or
I
married,
love that. Yes,
blog articles talking about sex and intimacy. We are
yes,
getting ready to launch, um, uh, my business, Perfecting Her Craft. We are getting
yes,
ready to launch, uh, a podcast where we will be
yes,
talking about, um, just the science, the Bible, and the wisdom of wifehood,
yes,
and all of the things that go along with healthy relationship. And
yes,
we're going to talk candidly. I hope
yes.
you can see that I don't have a cut card. So we're going to work. Transparency is my ministry.
I love
So
that.
we're going to talk about transparent topics that the church won't touch.
Yes, I
You
did
know,
see that, and you mentioned the marriage bed, and
yes.
that is key.
So Wifely Tea and Talk is the name
Yes,
of the podcast, Wifely Tea and Talk. And on Tuesdays, we're going to have Pillow Talk Tuesdays.
awesome.
And we're going to talk about the marriage bed because, I'm sorry, God could have made us, reproduce by blinking one eye and hopping on one foot, but that's not what he did. He
Right.
created us to share this intimate bond that is a
Yes,
glue, that
yes,
is pleasurable.
right,
And just because we're Christian or just because we're married, like single
right,
folks shouldn't have better sex than the married folk.
right,
So
right.
it's time that we, who
Acknowledge that.
teaches a woman how to be a superwoman in the bed.
Right, right,
You are limited to just what you know.
right.
So
Exactly.
let's be our sister's keeper.
Yes,
Let's teach. I want every woman to be a superwoman in the bed. I want
yes,
every woman to keep their own husband.
yes. Absolutely.
So we can fight against the side chicks. The side
Right,
chicks shouldn't be coming in and taking your husband.
right. Absolutely,
So it's
absolutely.
it's time for us to be transparent and to have
Yes.
these type of conversations. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, yes, this is amazing, amazing. Everyone, Miss Adia Dozier, she is an amazing woman. Pick up
Pleasure.
her book, go to her website. Her website is phenomenal. I've been on there. Like she said, she has some free downloads there.
Yes.
She has a prayer section where are you doing like prayer request type of thing in your prayer
Yes.
section?
Yes. So
Okay.
on the prayer page, you can write out your prayer, and
Mm-hmm.
it can either be anonymous or you can print your name. If it's anonymous, then everyone sees it, and we can all pray for you. So I'm
Yes.
going to pray for you. I'm going to fast and pray for you,
Right.
and other women can also pray. And
Yes.
every time they pray, they can hit the button that they've prayed, um,
Nice.
because we all need each other.
Yes, we do. We do. And I thank you for reminding us, because this was your assignment. God gave you this assignment
Yes, ma'am.
because there is a need.
Yes,
He
ma'am.
knows that there are a number of women out there that are broken some place in their lives, and they're
Yes.
stuck. And
Yes.
this book is a way
To
to
get
chip
unstuck.
away at getting unstuck.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I commend you on your blessing, because that's what this is. You're
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
be blessed when you purchase it. Adia is blessed for writing it,
My husband is blessed for,
and your husband is
yes,
blessed.
yes, Lord.
Yes. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching us today on the Authors Lounge. Miss Adia, thank you so much for sharing
Yes, ma'am.
your story and sharing your journey and
Anytime.
being transparent. And I know that people are blessed hearing this today.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
you all, we are going to sign off and have a great Easter holiday. And we'll see you next time on the Authors Lounge.
Bless you, Paulette.
Thank you. Bless
Thank you for
you.
having you.
You're welcome.